Okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Stockbridge Assessors meeting for Monday, September the 20th, 2021. Welcome all.
Good morning, everybody. So first, I'm just going to review last week's or 2 weeks ago meeting, and I will update everyone on anything. Actually, there's some items from this meeting that are on today's meeting, which is, let's see, the new growth and the submission of the forms to the state for the certification of our values and for the tax rate and for the appellate tax court case that's coming up next week. So there is number 2, there's a motor vehicle warrant for the Board of Assessors to sign for fiscal year 21. You can do that when you come in. Now the update on the tax forms. So we found out last week that the LA3 or the LA3 and the LA15, which is our sales analysis certification, was certified on Gateway by Joe Barberi with the Department of Revenue. So that's the first step in getting closer to setting up the classification hearing for the tax rate. So right now, and I'm hoping today that we hear from him again and we can review the LA4, which is the breakdown of the classification for all the properties, and the LA13, which is our new growth, which we've discussed a little bit over the last few meetings. And once those are approved, and again, I'm hoping they're approved today, then we can start the advertisement for the tax classification. And I've talked to Mike Canales about that, so we can start scheduling that. But I didn't want to rush into it because at this point, we're still working on the tax recap, and we need that to be pretty close to being complete in order for us to have the information that we can give to the select board for an idea of what the tax rate's going to be. And I also mentioned that there would be some work that I would want to do for the information that I provide to the select board, where they'd have a more clarity on what the residential exemption would be in case that was voted in. So, I mean, usually we rush to advertise the public hearing for the tax classification. For example, if we found out today that we were getting the rest of our forms certified by the end of the day, I would be sending in the ad for the classification hearing, which is a public meeting, literally right away, and we'd be scheduling it for next week. But we're going to need a little bit more time because the forms or the extra forms that the accountant and the treasurer have to complete are not done yet. And I'll probably get an update on that today because I wasn't here last week. And they were working on that. They're all working on those forms together, so I can have that information. For example, the local receipts that we received last year, we need that for the recap sheet. And there's some other forms with the community preservation and the debt exclusions that I need before we can move forward with getting an idea of what the tax rate's going to be. And again, hoping maybe by the end of the week, we'll have that information from them, if not next week. So I don't have a date yet for when we can do the classification hearing. I'll have to talk to Mike about that, and he can give me an idea of when the select board will be meeting. And I'm sure it's going to be a hybrid meeting as well, going forward. So I'll update you guys on where we stand with the forms as soon as the state calls me. Again, hoping it's today. It typically shouldn't be a problem. I don't think there's anything that they're going to take issues with. They're reviewing the 504 utility values closely because they have those appraisals, which is good because we should have second eyes on those before they are actually approved. So that's an update on that. And again, once we have the classification hearing, we should be able to, because at that point, we will have all of the forms completed, because we will have them completed before the classification hearing. It should be a matter of a few days, depending on how things go at the classification hearing. And again, the residential exemption is something that might be considered, and that could be something that could hold up things, because we've never tested it before. But going forward, the software company will have to be able to handle such a thing and be able to get that done for us moving forward. I have to actually get a idea of, or at least have a spreadsheet ready to show how many eligible parcels would receive such an exemption. That's why you need a little bit more time between the forms being certified with the DOR and setting up the classification hearing. I typically give the select board, usually it's just a group of papers that has a lot of information on it about what they're going to be approving and how long it usually will take for such things. So I'll update you as we go along, but we're moving forward, and so far so good with the certification process this year. Number 5, the appellate tax board case that we have coming up for the 35 and 37 Interlaken Road is next Tuesday, and I've actually submitted all of the jurisdictional documents to the appellate tax board, both by PDF form, through email, and they also wanted it mailed to them. And so that all went out before I was on vacation last week. And I have not heard anything back yet from the attorneys for those 2 properties. So as far as I know, it's going forward next Tuesday. And again, I've never done this before through a Zoom hearing. I'm assuming they will be sending a link to the both of us, to both parties, and we will just Zoom in from the office on Tuesday morning. And if I do hear anything from their attorney, I will immediately notify you guys, because it's pretty late to do a reschedule at this point. And I would like to go forward with it and not reschedule. I mean, who knows with everything that's happening with the pandemic, you know, how long are they going to be closed at the appellate tax board? You know, they have a backlog that is truly incredible. So it's, in my opinion, I think it's a good thing to, if you get a hearing date, you know, we've already postponed it once, waiting an appraisal, which we haven't received. And if we do it again, what are the terms for that? And that would be up to you guys if you wanted to do that. But as it stands right now, Tuesday's coming fast for next week. And I'll be prepared as best I can. You know, the burden of proof obviously is with the attorney on this, and I haven't heard anything back, which is, I will say, a bit strange at this point.
So you have to submit your paperwork to the ATB. Do they then submit it to the person that's making the hearing? So I guess my point is, if the other party got an appraisal, would it be shared with you in advance?
It should be. Yeah, well, it's right. It's a formal.
Right.
It's a formal. So if they drop that without my knowledge at the ATB, then they leave it up to us. I mean, again, it's one of those things where they would probably postpone it at that point and say, you got the information too late. Why didn't you give it to the Board of Assessors in enough time? The jurisdictional documents are the initial abatement application, the denial notice, the history of payment, because the applicant has to have paid at least the first half fiscal 21. This is a fiscal 20 case. So fiscal 20 tax bill, it is a affidavit of the mailing of the tax bills that comes from the treasurer and the tax collector, the record card, a copy of the map, and any other information that you want to send, you know, to again, they would share it with them, but I've gotten, typically what happens in a case like this is you get questions sent to you. They're called interrogatories, and they're multi-tiered questions. No assessor likes getting them, but you have to fill them out within a given amount of time set up by the ATB. I've received nothing, not a single question on this, and I'm starting to wonder if he's even aware that we have a case next week. But as I've gotten the notification that it was postponed to the 28th of September, and I just assume that's the day that we're going forward with it. And if we hear anything this week, I will update you guys as soon as I can. But I will say this is the most unusual lead up to a commercial case that I have ever experienced. And, again, things are different during COVID. So, we'll see what happens. But again, I did everything that we are supposed to do as far as the jurisdictional. What happens with jurisdictional is the appellate tax board has to review all these documents in advance and make sure that the taxpayer paid on time with zero interest. And they want to make sure that, we gave them enough time to file the abatement. And that you guys also either approved or disapproved of the abatement within the amount of time that the statutory law provides, and which of course you did. So again, early on in the week, but I'll be very surprised if I hear anything additional on this. Number 6 is the overlay for fiscal year 22. Part of the recap this year, well, every year actually, is before we go to set the tax rate, you guys have to determine a proper, or at least close as we can, idea of what the overlay for abatements and exemptions is going to be. And at the moment, because I don't have the exact numbers because I submitted my spreadsheets to Cheryl, our accountant, so she could review and double check my numbers as far as what's left in the overlay account for fiscal 21, 20, 19, and 18. Now you guys released, the last release you did on the overlay was in 2017, which would have been for fiscal year 18. But it was done before the tax rate was set. And at that point, I calculated that we had $89,000 left in that year. But I need her to verify that the overlay release wasn't part of that 89,000. So even without that, for fiscal 21, 20, and 19, we have approximately $44,641 left in the overlay. Now, what's going to happen this year, because of the increase in the utilities, again, which is the state is double checking, and with the potential of the appellate tax board case that is next week, there is one more pending, but I'm not including that in this because that probably won't get scheduled until next year, late next year. So I did a calculation of what will be needed just with the assumption that we had to go to the appellate tax board for utilities and they reduced it to the number that they provided. That for the 3 utilities would be $53,909. Now the pending ATB case, what I did is I took the valuation for the fiscal year 20 that's in question, and of the 2 lots in question, and I divided it down the middle just in case the appellate tax board likes to give to both sides. Usually that's $12,456. So what that means is just with those 2 numbers, you're talking $66,365 that's going to be needed in addition to what we typically put in, which last year, that number. last year's amount on the recap for the overlay was $46,676.62. So I would say that's probably out of the $46,676, we used $26,433, leaving $20,243 in that account for 21. So the state's gonna make us, because they really are the final say in this. If we put in too much or too little, actually too much is never an issue, too little is always an issue. A start off point of the 46,000 for fiscal 21, and then take into account the numbers, again, 66,365. But we also have money left over in the remaining years. So, and again, you don't have to decide it right now. I'm just throwing these numbers out that this year's overlay will definitely be higher than what we put in last year. What we used to do without even review, and I'm glad you guys review this now, is we always would just put in 100,000 into the overlay. And this was before the state changed through the Municipal Modernization Act of 2017. They now, and I don't know why, but we treat it as one account at this point. But most assessors that I talk to, including me, we still keep it categorized by fiscal year. It's just easier when you're actually giving abatements and exemptions, because we keep a log of every single one of them. But as far as the accountant is concerned, Cheryl actually, if she's accounting for them separately, that's fine. But I still need to know as a total, what are we working with right now going into fiscal year 22? You know, do we have the 44,641, or do we actually have the 134 if you include what's left in fiscal 18? I'm thinking that we did turn over that money in 18, but I can't, for some reason, it's a matter of the dates and the way that they posted it. So I need to ask her this week if that's part of it. If it's not, let's just assume that for this conversation, it's 44,641. We need 66,365 on top of the 46 that we had last year. So I think we're going to be looking at easily bringing it back up to 100,000.
Right.
Yep.
So if we used 46,000 last year, round numbers, and we might need another 66, that's a little over 100. And we have money left from previous years.
Right. I think we'd be good.
So 100,000 should be
definitely
perfect. And again, we do have the buffer to use all of the balances from previous years.
Yep. And again, I don't think that's going to set the tax rate on fire. You know, I think it's we're looking right now, and again, I haven't seen the receipts. That's what's going to the receipts for the actual that we brought in for fiscal 21 and the estimate that we're going to use for fiscal year 22. That's the accountant, but it's a huge part of the tax rate. And we're already starting to see just by the preliminary work that's being done on that the receipts are showing a little bit, definitely higher in most categories over what we estimated. But when Ray was here, our former accountant, because of COVID and not knowing where we were going, with everything shutting down at that point when we were getting the tax rate set last year, we basically really lowered those numbers because, again, I think the state was looking for you to do that anyway in anticipation of not having the rooms tax or the meals tax because so many restaurants and other things were closed. So right now, I'm very curious to see where that number is, and everything should come into play if those are high. Even with the overlay going up, the tax rate goes down because our values are higher and the budget isn't, you know, a lot more than it was last year. So we'll have a better idea when I see those receipts and I have the overlay to plug in now. Do you guys want to discuss? Are you okay with the putting it 100,000 this year?
This seems fine to me, Mike.
Okay. Tom?
Yep, I agree. It's fine.
Okay.
So do we need to take a formal vote on that, or?
I think it would be, I would say that would be a good idea. I would propose that we add 100,000 to the overlay account based on all the information that Mike has just given us.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Before we go into executive session, Tom, any update? I know you had the meeting, was it 2 Fridays ago? Was it 2 Fridays?
It was on the 10th.
Okay.
A week ago last Friday. Yeah, well, we did meet. It was good to get back together again after a year and a half of not meeting because of COVID. So just to quickly recap, Gary was there with me along with Jay Wajkowski and our intern, David Wazalewski. Also attending were Roxanne McCaffrey, and virtually Mike Canales was there as well. And in the audience was Peter Strauss, who has attended a couple of our meetings of the Board of Assessors, who expressed interest in joining the pilot committee, and the pilot committee voted to ask the selectmen to make him an official appointment. And also we decided we would seek one more person from the community to join us, and with a strong preference for having a woman, just in that we should definitely have some gender balance in this committee. We're going to proceed ahead to try to have our report for the Board of Selectmen prior to the next annual town meeting. There was some question about whether or not we really, with the variant and what have you, and new mask mandates, should we delay still more? And the feeling was we've really delayed enough and it's time to get on with this. And after all, we're just writing up a report on how the process should proceed, and the actual negotiation with the not-for-profits will be taken after our report has been approved and finalized and then approved. So we're starting with the updated questionnaire. We reviewed our last questionnaire, and I'm in the process of updating it and distributing it. And once we get some returns from the questionnaire, we'll reconvene and take it the next steps. So after the questionnaire, after we get the questionnaires back, we'll have interviews with the various not-for-profits. We'll then have a public meeting for public comments. We'll write up a final report or draft report, submit it to the select board, see what changes they may request or edits they may have. We'll have a final report, and hopefully that will be approved prior to the annual town meeting. And there was some discussion that we would probably ask that there be an article in the warrant, which is a non-binding article, not legally necessary, but it would definitely indicate to everybody concerned that the taxpayers of Stockbridge approve, we think, but they, the vote will tell whether or not we should indeed have a pilot program along the lines of our report. So that's where we are moving forward, and I think we're off to a good start.
Okay. So right now, Gary, if you want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So should we talk about our future meetings in open session before we go to executive session?
Sure.
That's probably not a valid.
Yep. I didn't put that on here because I wasn't sure what we were going to do. What do you guys think about how do you want to pursue our next meeting and then forward with that? I was told at our staff meeting that it wouldn't be a bad idea to go back to doing it like we were doing it before, where we were Zooming. I mean, I'm still here, but we were Zooming outside of the building. If you want to do it in-house, we can either still do it in the office, but we have to be masked and still, you know, social distance. And I don't know how that would work here, or I know how to set up the meeting now. It didn't go exactly as planned when I set it up for the meeting, Tom, that you just described.
Right.
But, I know why, because the unit was unplugged. I don't know how it got unplugged, but it did. So I know how to set that up if you wanted to try meeting. And again, it's all dependent on whether they're using the meeting on Mondays, which typically I don't think they do. But we could meet down where the select board meet, and I could set the Zoom up that way. Or we just do it the way we were doing it before, and you come in and sign everything later on. I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm fine with any option that you want. I just know that there will be, now that we're getting into the tax rate season, there'll be things to sign, and then we've got abatement season right after that. And there'll be things that we have to review. We still are open to the public, so you guys, we won't have to make copies of everything and have you sign stuff downstairs. You could still come into the office as long as we're all wearing masks and sign everything that you need to sign. It's just the actual setup of the meetings and how we want to pursue that going forward. What do you guys think?
I have no issue with coming in.
All right.
I mean, I think since we are going to be going over abatements that are paper heavy,
yes,
since we have to sign a lot of paperwork, I think it probably would be better to have local meetings that are closed to the public that are Zoomed out, right? That's what we're talking about doing, is having a local meeting.
I think well, the thing is, because the building is open to the public, I think we legally have to allow people to still come in, right. but we still have to, because you guys set it up that way, have a hybrid meeting. So anyone that wants to tune in that still doesn't feel comfortable coming in, they can still do that from wherever they want to do it from.
But with that being said, I'm hearing two different things. So if we're open to the public and we're allowing the public to come in, why do they have to be Zoomed?
Because we tried to do that before, and there was a backlash. Okay, and the different groups are doing their own thing. Some people aren't even Zooming anymore, but I guess because of the issues and the interest with the classification and the residential exemption, that has fueled a lot of interest in which we typically didn't have before, that we have now, where people want to see, and they still there are people that aren't comfortable, even though we're open to the public coming in and maybe wearing a mask or whatnot. So we, you know, again, we still have to offer both. That was a decision that you guys made, you know, before, and you can make, you know, you can change your mind on that. Again, I think we've been very open, you know, and tried to accommodate. Again, this office is only so big, but again, our meetings are a little different because they're very interactive. We're pulling maps and record cards and things like that. It's not always convenient to be down the hall, all the way down the hall, where we have no resources and we're running back and forth trying to find all the information that we need for a particular case. I would think that once you go into executive session, if you were meeting down the hallway, we'd have to close the door, like we're going to do soon, put a note up on the door that we're in executive session so the public doesn't come in.
Well, either that, Mike, or we would just come up to the assessor's office.
Oh, that too. Yep, that can happen. Yep. But we'd have to close our door here because we still have people that can, again, the flow of traffic, since we've opened, really, people are using the resources outside of here that we offer, but, you know, they can come in and feel free to come in. We just now have the shield back up. You are required to wear a mask coming in and out of the building and going from office to office as well. That,
Mike, we didn't hear from Tom whether he's comfortable with coming in or not.
Oh, thank you, Gary. I'm comfortable coming in. I'm certainly more than willing to go with the flow. My question is, I would tend to favor, if we are doing the hybrid, having it at the select board office so we can see the big screen, and if there are people, we can all see who the people are.
Right.
If we go into executive session, I think it does make sense to come back to our office. However, if the executive session is a hybrid session, let's say somebody is appealing, you know, there's an appeal going on and they have the landowner and the landowner's lawyers there, should we offer them the option of doing it by executive session Zoom wise or not? I think that's something we need to decide.
That's true. Yeah, we can do it on a case-by-case basis. And
yeah, I think that's fine. And I think the other thing we could do is we could stay in the select board office and just ask the folks if there is anybody in the audience, you know, that they would have to leave. And, you know, chances are we wouldn't return from the executive session anyways. So we would just ask them to excuse themselves and we'd continue on.
That's true.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm agreed to what Gary has just articulated.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, since the Zoom is already set up, if one of us as the assessors are unable to attend in person, there's no reason why we also can't Zoom in. So it gives us flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
That if someone's not feeling well, or if someone's out of town, or they want to Zoom in, you know, since the Zoom's set up, we can Zoom in as ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
And what I can do is I can show Tammy how to set up that meeting. Just, I mean, what if there's a storm and I can't get here? I can Zoom in from home, but only if that's set up down there. So that's but it's easy to do. I mean, once Mike showed me how to do it, he's got everything labeled, and it is nice to have that giant screen right there and not worry about camera placement. And I mean, I get really paranoid trying to set these meetings up, hoping that everyone has access to all the components of the meeting.
Well, certainly with bad weather approaching, it's a nice alternative.
Definitely. So what we'll do is for our next meeting, which is what is the next, Tammy? Is it this? I know we have a holiday and there's the second week in October.
8th and the 22nd.
Okay. So for October 8th, I will plan it so we meet down in the Selectmen's meeting room via in-person and Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Will do.
What's our next meeting?
Oh, wait a minute.
The
11th and the 25th also.
Yeah. 11th and 25th.
That's a holiday.
Oh, that's right. The 11th
Columbus Day.
Holiday.
Yeah, so it'll be the 12th. Then?
So the 12th will be it. Yep. Okay. So that's coming. All right. So, Gary, we have motor vehicle exemptions, and there's a new Chapter 61B application that came through that we should talk about. If you want to start the call for executive session.
Sure. The Stockbridge Select Board will now go into an executive session, and we're going to discuss motor vehicle.
Oh, the Board of Assessors.
Yeah, it's Board of Assessors. We're not quite the selectmen, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I can't believe I even said that. The Stockbridge Board of Assessors will now go into executive session, and we will not return to the public. And we're going to discuss motor vehicle abatements, and we're also going to discuss, Mike?
Chapter 61B application.
So thank you all for attending, and we'll see you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
So we need a vote to go into executive session.
All right, I second it. I vote.
I say aye.
I vote aye.
Approve.